The clock is ticking. In just about 26 hours, the United States government could shut down. The lights in federal buildings could go dark. Services that millions of Americans depend on every single day could stop. This is a moment of crisis, a standoff with huge consequences for everyone. At the center of this high-stakes drama are three men shaped by New York. A city that never sleeps is now at the heart of a fight that could put the nation's government to sleep. The fate of Washington rests on three New Yorkers: Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Donald Trump. Schumer, a Democrat from Brooklyn, a seasoned political fighter, persistent, steeped in Senate rules. Jeffries, also from Brooklyn, a newer national leader, tasked with holding his party together. Trump, from Queens, still a powerful force in the Republican Party. Not in office, but his influence can bring the government to a halt. It is easy to forget, New York City was once the nation's capital. Long before the White House and the Capitol were built in Washington, D.C., our country's leaders met in a building on Wall Street called Federal Hall. George Washington took his oath of office as the first president right there, on a balcony overlooking the bustling city. It was in New York that the first Congress met, and the Bill of Rights was born. The city was the first home of American democracy, a place where big ideas about freedom and government were debated and turned into law. Today, history seems to be repeating itself, but in a very different way. The power has shifted back, in a sense, to New York. The decisions that will affect the entire country are not being made just in the halls of Congress anymore. They are being heavily influenced by three men whose identities are deeply connected to New York City: Schumer, Jeffries, Trump. The political gravity has pulled back to the place where it all began. This is not just a coincidence, it shows how much our country has changed. So, what does a government shutdown actually mean? It is not just a headline on the news. It is something that has real, immediate, and painful effects on people's lives. A shutdown happens when Congress fails to pass a budget. When the money runs out, many federal agencies have to close their doors. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are told to stay home without pay. They are called furloughed. These are not just nameless bureaucrats. Friends, neighbors, family members. They have rent to pay, groceries to buy, children to care for. Imagine a single parent who works for the National Park Service. One day a steady job, the next day told not to come to work, no paycheck. How do you explain that to your kids? How do you pay your bills? This is the reality for so many people. It creates immense stress and uncertainty. It is not just the furloughed workers. The pain of a government shutdown does not stay inside Washington, D.C. It spreads like ripples in a pond, touching communities in every corner of the country. Think about a small town near a large military base. Small town Main Street military base exterior, soldiers. Many local businesses, like restaurants, dry cleaners, and grocery stores, depend on the soldiers and civilian workers from that base. When those workers stop getting paid, they stop spending money. Suddenly, the local diner has fewer customers. The small shop on Main Street sees its sales drop. A shutdown in Washington can quickly become an economic crisis for a town hundreds of miles away. The travel industry is another area that feels the impact almost immediately. Airports can become a nightmare. With fewer TSA agents and air traffic controllers working, many of them without pay, security lines can get incredibly long. Air traffic controllers working, many of them without pay. Flights can be delayed or even canceled. This does not just ruin a family's vacation plans. This is not the first time we have been here. Our country has gone through several government shutdowns before, and each one has left scars. Looking back at them is like watching a scary movie where you know the ending is bad, but you hope this time will be different. One of the longest shutdowns happened in the winter of 2018 and 2019. It lasted for 35 days. During that time, we saw federal workers lining up at food banks because they could not afford to buy groceries. We saw air traffic controllers warning that the system was becoming unsafe. It was a painful and embarrassing chapter for the country. Another major shutdown happened in 2013. That one lasted for 16 days. National parks were closed, which cost nearby communities millions of dollars in lost tourism money. Important scientific research was put on hold. Veteran services were disrupted. After it was all over, studies showed that the shutdown cost the American economy billions of dollars. It was all for nothing, as the political fight ended without any major changes. It was a painful lesson, in how political stubbornness can cause widespread damage without achieving any real goals. The ghosts of these past shutdowns haunt us today. They remind us that these fights are not just political theater. The data is clear. Shutdowns hurt the economy, they damage public trust, and they disrupt the lives of millions of innocent people. When a shutdown is about to happen, the first thing you hear is the blame game. It is a noisy and confusing war of words. Each side points a finger at the other. The Republicans might say that the Democrats are spending too much money and that the country is going into debt. They might argue that they are taking a stand for fiscal responsibility, trying to force the government to live within its means. They will tell their voters that they are the ones fighting to protect the taxpayers' money from wasteful spending. On the other side, the Democrats will say that the Republicans are holding the government hostage to get their extreme demands. They will argue that the Republicans are putting politics ahead of people, threatening to shut down essential services to score political points. They will say that they are the ones trying to be reasonable, trying to pass a simple budget to keep the government open and running. They will tell the American people that they are defending important programs that help seniors, children, working families from dangerous cuts proposed by the other side. It is a battle for public opinion. This blame game matters because in a democracy, public opinion is powerful. The side that gets blamed for the shutdown is the side that is more likely to lose political power in the next election. So, both parties work very hard to control the story. They go on television. At its core, a government shutdown is a profound test of trust. We trust our leaders to do their most basic job, to keep the government running. We elect them and send them to Washington with the expectation that they will work together, or at least compromise to fund the services that our country depends on. When they fail to do that, it breaks that fundamental trust. It sends a message that our political system is so broken, so divided, that it cannot even perform its simplest and most essential functions. This is incredibly damaging to our democracy. This erosion of trust has long-term consequences. When people see their government in chaos, they start to lose faith in its ability to solve any problem, big or small. They become cynical and disconnected. Why should they vote or pay taxes or believe what their leaders say? Each carries a piece of New York. They know its energy, its toughness, its diversity, different groups living side by side, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in conflict. New York teaches you how to negotiate, how to fight for what you believe in, how to stand your ground. Skills learned on the streets of Brooklyn and the streets of Queens, now put to the ultimate test. Not just fighting for parties, fighting for their vision of America. Will their shared roots find a way out? Or will New York toughness make the fight worse? Will they see the federal workers, the families, the seniors? Or will they only see their political opponents across the negotiating table? The stakes could not be higher. The deadline is fast approaching. And 3 New Yorkers hold the keys. Their decisions will determine if the government stays open or closes its doors on the American people. Can they look past their differences to serve the common good? Or will the political center of gravity, now unofficially back in New York, become a black hole that pulls the government into chaos? The echoes of history are all around us, asking if we have learned from our past. Do they want to preside over a nation that is constantly on the brink of chaos? Or do they want to restore a sense of stability, reliability, trust? A shutdown is still not inevitable. Some deal, some cover, some emergency funding might emerge at 11:59 p.m. But the longer this snag drags, the harder it will be to patch the damage in health and trust in everyday lives. This moment in Washington is more than parliamentary brinksmanship. It is a test. Stay tuned. This has just started.